Good morning, everyone. Uh, if you're coming for the first time, nice to meet you. My name is Juan Valdez. I am an author, systems engineer, yogi, truth seeker, and dad, executive, and a whole bunch of other things. So, welcome. If you have already visited, welcome back. This is actually the second part, or at least the beginning of the second part of a lecture that I gave about Theology Reconsidered and Eurasian philosophy, Theology Reconsidered, and ultimately quantum metaphysics, which I'm going to get into a little bit today. It was a two-part work. It's this massive beast, which if you want the details are all in here. That's for some reason I felt compelled to document that kind of intellectual journey, and it's divided into these two parts. I tend to call it Theology Reconsidered, which was its initial title, but it basically comes in the prologue. Then there's a part 1 on creation myth, cosmogony, and then a part 2 on ancient philosophy, logos, okay, which I'll get into a little bit today. Part 3 on religion and science, that's sort of that break, which covers, really the advent of monotheism into the Enlightenment period. And then we get into quantum metaphysics on ontology and mysticism. And then quite specifically, we start to put forward at least the initial grounds of a new system of metaphysics that is supposed to solve some of these pretty inherent problems to the system that we are going to talk about today. So yeah, that's where we are. Nice to have you with us. I have a cup of coffee. It's very early in the morning. We got our air conditioning to work upstairs. So mommy and the baby are upstairs, which is good. So I should probably have a little bit more time to do some stuff this morning. I've been meaning to get this out for a while. So who's the intended audience? This is something I need to get out there too, which feels a little bit weird, but there's this whole groundswell. I talked a little bit about this in my last talk about tech and sort of providing the technology groundwork or framework for some of this sort of ascension that's occurring right now from a consciousness perspective. And I was thinking about it this morning. I had morning meditation, and I was thinking about these sort of time periods and these ages that sort of crop up in at least the known history of man, right? So I talked a little bit last time about sort of in the middle of the 1st century BCE, there's sort of a very strange phenomenon that crops up, in this sort of Eurasian geographical area, which again is northern Africa, the Mediterranean, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, the Near East, Persians, what ends up being the Ottoman Empire, Iran, Iraq, and ancient India, and then the Far East, across the Himalayas to China. And that whole area was, from a genetic standpoint, seems to have been seeded in the 40,000 years ago range, give or take, 65,000 out of Africa, and then generally the at least the roots from a genetic perspective seem to have been laid. China a little bit further out, maybe 35,000 years ago or something like that. But India certainly, and the Near East and the Mediterranean, you're looking at something that's seeded in the 40 to 50,000 years ago type range. And so that's pretty far back. And the written records crop up, they crop up, in physical manifest or form in the first millennium BCE. But as I talk quite a bit about, you're looking at records that, if you ballpark what you think the extent of an oral tradition might carry you back, you're talking a couple of thousand years, give or take, given that they could code and seed and actually mantra fix some of these cosmogony mythologies, basically, you can go back to 5,000, 10,000 years ago, at least to understand what the mind of the people who were the original authors of some of these texts. And what you have to understand, I do a bunch of this work in Homo Mysticus, which is some of the more radical writing that I've done, and a lot of this message that I'm giving you today is coded in those ancient myths. So sometimes the video goes out, so just bear with me here. I have to cut and start over again.